Welcome to the relaunch of Desk Side Chats, part of the Good People Finish First community. This is our first Desk Side Chat, and I'm extremely excited to have Corey Keating joining us. Many of you probably already know Corey. Has some incredible information content, just really is putting out a lot of really good stuff. Corey and I have never met in person, but we have interacted several times over the last couple of years. And I consider, Corey, I consider you a friend. I consider you certainly a mentor in many ways, helping many of us to simply get better. So if you could just take a moment, Corey, and introduce yourself, your business, and how you are delivering value to your clients.
First of all, likewise, John, and thank you for that gracious interview. I consider you a friend as well, and I love what you're doing and what you're building here. And I'm just grateful to be on and be able to chat with you and others and see if there's any value I can provide. So anyway, my name's Corey Keating. I've been in financial marketing my entire career. I am a creative leader and a brand builder. I work with financial advisors and boutique asset managers to help them create content and consult with them on their marketing to help them build bigger brands, gain attention, and ultimately grow their brand and grow their reach. So in a very kind of short window, that's what I do. I came from the industry. I worked at a broker dealer, regional investment manager. I've worked at some of the, I won't name names, but I've worked at many firms that you guys are familiar with on both sides of the fence, investment management and client facing. So I'm in a cool spot. I've been on my own since 2019. And look, I'm just excited to be working with folks like yourselves.
Thanks, Corey. And you do have, I think, a really good background or perspective on the industry, and you can just see it. Our interactions, you can see it in the content. I think you have a really good understanding of this business. And I guess one thing I wanted to ask is, from a marketing standpoint, have you delved outside of the business, or have you really strictly stayed inside of financial services in terms of the brand building and the support that you're giving?
Yeah, awesome question. When I first stepped out on my own in 2019, I ran with this sentence to people who asked that similar question. I was like, if a baker wants to sell more bread, I'll help them sell more bread. And I've stepped back from that hard stop. I will not do that. I will only work in the financial industry. I've learned over those last 2.5 years, almost 3 years of doing this, is that if you don't stay in your lane, if you don't stay at what you're good at in your expertise, you end up going too far down a road of speaking outside of what frankly and you feel that uncomfortableness if you get too far down that. I don't know how to sell and market bread. Like, I have no business doing that. So I said that initially because it's when you step out on your own, you're hungry for business. But as business came in, I realized I need to be focused on my niche and what I'm good at, and that's working with advisors and investment managers, period.
And that's really interesting that you came to that revelation, because that's something that is so important for advisors. And we talk to advisors all the time. If you look at different websites and you look at how advisors represent them, so you look at just how advisors are starting out. So you mentioned 2019, you're leaping off, you want to be all things to all people, try to bring in all the clients. That's how advisors in many cases will try to bring on new clients. And really the most successful advisors find that the best way to build a business over the long term, the best way to be successful is to really hone in and focus on that niche.
It's scary to think of turning away business if it's there for you, right? And especially if you're not to scale, or if you're just fighting to put food on the table, like as you just become an advisor, you're just struggling to build your business. I get it. I totally understand it. But to your point, John, and as I've worked with multiple high performing advisors over the last couple of years and really gotten into the weeds with them, the successful ones, the most successful ones, have that niche dialed in.
And what would you say is maybe the biggest challenge for advisors right now who are looking to kind of build that niche, build that brand, you get themselves out there and find new clients? And I guess whether it's an advisor or a money manager, or someone who is just kind of really trying to put themselves out and target and find that niche.
Well, let's stay in the advisor lane. I mean, you tell me where to go and I'll let you steer, but I feel like what you're building here is primarily targeted towards advisors. So let's give them as much value as we can. Like the number one thing I talk to new clients or prospects in the first conversation about is like, they come in, they're eager. I want some help. I feel like you could really help me. How do I get out there, get more attention, bring in new business? I'm like, what are you guys doing? What are you doing? And they're like, it's either literally nothing, or it's, I don't know, I'm out there on LinkedIn once or twice a week, or I've got, a couple videos that I put out, or I've got this email thing that I send to this lead list, and we do some seminars and offer the steak dinner and things. And like nothing is consistent about what they're doing. It's trying a bunch of different things without follow-up consistency and reciprocity. Like people are just kind of throwing darts all over the place, and that's really hard to get to stick. So my first thing is I'm like, we need to stop all this activity, break down who you are, who you want to work with, and where they are. Where's their attention? Are they high-earning individuals, and if they or are they in that 40 to 50 range in the corporate world? Then we probably should spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, a lot of time. Like, or are you focused on people that are 60 and up? We should probably spend a lot more time on Facebook, right? So those things are all things to consider. And I really just try to break down, what are you doing? Let's stop some of this activity that just wastes time and money, and then focus on putting a plan in place to build some consistency around getting your message in front of people. It's really just, at the end of the day, like no one's talking about your business for you. So if you're not talking about it consistently, like how do you expect new clients to find out about you?
You mentioned steak dinners. Are people, that's actually my background. That's how, or I spent years doing that, going around on the circuit, doing presentations for end clients. Are people still doing those?
I don't know. I mean, I know that those things still show up in my mailbox. I imagine as people get more comfortable and stuff, that'll come back a little bit, but that's not my forte. I'm not going to help any advisors bring in more people for steak dinners. That's probably not my thing.
Well, and you've mentioned this and you talk about it, kind of reciprocity. You mentioned that word, right? It's truly, giving with the, intent of just truly giving, right? And giving it away. And if you do that in the right way, you will receive. The clients will see that and come back. So I guess if, for an advisor who is hungry, who's looking for those clients, maybe they find that niche and they're targeting, how do you get them to really buy in and see the benefits of adopting that mindset?
I mean, the cool thing with me is that I'm one person, and then I outsource some of my work creatively as needed to designers or whatever, video editors, but like it's just one person. So I only need a half dozen really good clients to make my life, pretty fulfilled and my business pretty fulfilled. So I'm very picky and choosy about it. And we have a conversation up front of like, how do you see the world? Like, are you willing to have this back and forth, this honest dialogue with me of like, this works and this doesn't? Like, we've got to address that and figure that out. As far as like the reciprocity thing, I really coach the advisors that I work with, and I really work with them to almost mimic a lot of the stuff that I do, because they have a greater audience than I have, frankly, anyways, which is funny. Like, advisors out there are getting twice, 3 times, 4 times the engagement I get on my content. But what I do is I try to have them do what I do. And I'm like, I give you guys as much of this advice as I can for free. Like, I have no reason to charge you for it, because frankly, I know that you can't really implement it without someone's help anyways. So what I'm trying to do is get you to trust that I know what I'm doing, so that when it is time for you to work with me, you know who to come to. You come to me. I try to get advisors to do the exact same thing. I'm like, guys, let's make little 1 to 2 minute videos. Let's put them on YouTube. Let's answer a bunch of questions. Let's make sure we're on LinkedIn daily, or at least 5 times a week. Let's make sure we're in all the right places, giving away free value, so that when the people you want to work with finally decide, it's my wife and I have been talking, we need to hire an advisor, I know who to hire. This guy or girl, or this man or woman is in front of me all the time. Like, that's who we're hiring. We trust them because I've already seen what they're doing.
Yeah, it comes down to timing, right? I mean, it's you can say all the right things and provide all the right information. But if it's not the right time for the client, it's not going to happen. And
Period.
but if you're in front of them, if they know who you are, to your point, then that's where they're going to turn when the time is right. You mentioned YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, the different services. How many challenges have you run into, and how do you handle the objections from advisors who might be dealing with tighter compliance constraints? Like how have you navigated and helped advisors kind of get through some of the challenges that our industry faces? There's so little consistency in our industry as far as the protocol on what advisors can or can't do, and that's a big part of what I'm trying to do with this cause, is really change the game, get information out there, and really let advisors tell the truth. Like, just be transparent, tell the story. So how do you navigate that with the different compliance constraints that you might run into with different firms?
I think that is an easy, I want to be respectful here, but I feel like a lot of advisors hang the excuse coat on that rack. Can't do it. Can't do LinkedIn, can't do Facebook, can't do YouTube. Now what? And it's like, all right, now what? Like, let's talk. What can you do? I can do mailings, I can do meetings, I can do seminars, I can host webinars. I could have I can do all sorts of other things. I just maybe can't be in the social feed every day. And if I am in the social feed, speaking of a couple firms specifically that, we're all very familiar with, I can't talk investment related stuff. I have to use some of the canned content. Okay, so like we have a real conversation of like, if you're at one of those firms, I'll tell you right now, the canned content actually hurts you, because it's the same thing that every single other person puts out. The client or the prospect that sees it knows it's not real and canned, and like that's not helping your brand. So what we need to be doing is, maybe you just need to share a picture of yourself headed into the office with a cup of coffee saying, rainy day, miserably cold, but can't wait to talk to some of you guys today. That's not investment related. It's you in front of your firm with the sign, and it's a piece of content that welcomes them to their morning, and it's 45 seconds. That kind of stuff plays too, right? And like, I'm not going to out one of the clients I'm working with, but like, we created, I'm not going to show it, but we created a really nice package and a box that we sent to a lot of prospects that showed interest. And inside of that box was a book and a nice handwritten note and a $5 or $10 gift card to Starbucks. And that's marketing too. And there's so many different ways we can do things. It doesn't have to be LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. Those are obviously where there's a lot of attention, so that would be helpful. But the good old something in the mail helps. Quick videos that don't talk finance help. Like, there's a lot of things we can do.
There's so many different questions and routes I want to go down with you. And I can't wait to, talk to you more, because I think you have such great insight into a lot of these things. Yeah, and I think that's a great point. Like, what can you do, right? Like, rather than making the excuse, because everybody has an excuse. Well, I can't do that. I can't do that. Well, what can you do, and really try to focus there. When it comes to social media specifically, and putting out content.
I'm just turning this heater down. So I think it's loud.
You're good.
Social media specifically.
Yeah, when it comes to social media specifically, you mentioned something I think is pretty interesting, is that canned content actually hurts you. I mean, because some advice, that might be the only avenue or option that some advisors have. So I guess, can you expand on that a little bit? I mean, isn't it good to at least just get some kind of a presence out there, or you think it ends up actually detracting?
When was the last time you engaged in canned content?
Yeah, it's an immediate turnoff for me personally.
Period.
I mean,
it's an immediate turnoff for everybody. Come on. I mean, everybody watching this knows they're not engaging in the investment management canned content that's got the most beautiful retired 66-year-olds you've ever seen in your life. Like, they're prettier than like George Clooney. Like, what? Like, really? Like, so first of all, no one engages with it. Advisors who use it don't engage with it. So I don't know how they would expect their clients to engage with it with them. The only people that engage with it aren't going to do business with you. They're either already work at the firm and they want to clap their hands for you and give you a like, or there's someone who's just not going to work with you and they're a fan of yours or whatever. Or maybe they're already a client. Like, I don't want to say that, or a blanket statement, nobody, but no one engages with canned content. And then what it does is, LinkedIn's a fickle machine, man. Like, and as is Facebook. But if you I hate to go down this road, but if you don't play the algorithm intelligently, the algorithm suppresses you. And that's just the way it works. So the more ignored your stuff gets on LinkedIn, the farther they're going to push that score of yours down, right? You start at 100 when you first jump out. You start getting ignored with everything you put out. Nothing gets engaged, nothing gets clicked, nothing gets open, expanded. I mean, LinkedIn's going to have you at a 0 in a month. And now what? So that's how it hurts you. It hurts, one, the algorithmic score that you can't even get in front of people when you do post. Two, it makes it look like you're just putting commercial content out, and that's not valuable to anybody. I would rather, and I'm sure everybody watching here would rather engage in something that says like, I spilled coffee on my pants this morning, what the hell am I going to do? Than a corporate piece of content with the most beautiful retired couple ever.
So obviously you look at a lot of the money that's being spent, a lot of the resources, these firms have to know this, right?
Boy, we're going down a rabbit hole, man. This is my forte, this stuff.
Well, I mean, but it's right in line with everything that I'm trying to do. Is that, one thing that just drives me nuts, and I really probably tell anybody who's followed my stuff over the last couple of years, is like, if you watched the first video I ever did on LinkedIn, I didn't wear a suit purposefully. Mm-hmm. I got feedback from a few people initially, and that was the first comment somebody made: "You're not wearing a suit." So the what? So what? Like, is that necessary in order for this to be valuable? No, I mean, obviously you have to dress professionally. That's part of the game. But like, there's so much just perception of, it has to be done a certain way. How are these firms not figuring this out on that like you said, you got the beautiful retired couple that it ends up almost, to your point, the algorithm actually hurts you. It ends up actually hurting rather than helping the cause. How are they not figuring this out?
They're checking a box. And I don't mean that on the micro, I mean that on the macro, right? I worked at a regional broker dealer for a few years, 09 to 11 or 12. And so much of the feedback we got from advisors was, this was during the website boom, right? It's like, we need to create websites. We need websites. I don't have a website. So what the firm did was went out and hired a company, partnered with them. They were named Emerald. They were bought by Broadridge. Everyone's very familiar with them. Mm-hmm. And now every advisor had access to building their own website on this template. Now, the reason I tell you that is that was the regional broker dealer reacting to the outcry from the advisors coming in. We need this. Where are you with this? We need it. The firm supplied it, and they met in the middle and checked the box. That turned out to create an entire wave, a decade of websites that all look exactly the same. And then other competitors have jumped in, but they're all templated, right? Well, fast forward to 2014, 2015, 2016, advisors are getting noisy again of like, we need social media. Like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, where are we on social? What's going on? They're doing social, we're not. Like, what's happening here? We need social. So what the firms did, and I worked there at the time, was all geared up. They built a social media team. They never had one. They built one. They built one to appease, not to help, to appease the noise and the outcry from the advisors. It was never intended. The whole thing was never intended to help, because they would have built it first, right? The investment manager would have came in with it first and said, "Hey, we've created this. This thing's going to help grow your business, and here's how." Instead, it was, "You guys wanted it, we made it. And you can connect to it, and we'll post for you, and it's all perfect. It goes through compliance. It's so seamless. You can even use Salesforce on it, and you can set your posts up." And right, I mean, you and I could spend an hour talking about this, because I'll give you all the ingredients.
Days, Corey. Now I'm going to go down rabbit holes, because I mean, this is so much what I look at. Again, is it really done for the benefit of the advisor at the end of the day, right? I mean, like you said, checking a box, trying to do. I mean, you almost kind of wonder on some of this stuff.
I don't wonder. I'm sure, of course, the argument could be made from the inside, but we're not naive. Come on.
Yeah, and yet people continue to throw money at a lost cause in many cases, which is sad, but it does create a lot of opportunity for people like you that are offering something different. And like you said, you can only handle so many clients, and you've created your niche. But that, also kind of ties into this mentality of abundance. You know, there needs to be hundreds
Let's
of Corey
pause
Keatings
real
out
quick. I mean,
there.
you're asking phenomenal questions, and I love this. I mean, I swear a lot, so I'll be respectful of this
No,
show,
that's
so I
fine.
won't do that. But like, I fucking love this shit. Like, and I don't want to go so far as to say that like everyone at the investment manager is like rigging the system of like there is good intent there, right? It's just my point is on the macro, this stuff was created to check the box because of the outcry and the demand of the advisors and advisors, or I'm talking back office, right? Regionals, or whatever, national, I don't care, wirehouse. The firms make money as advisors come on and bring their book with them. Like, a certain firm A wants to take advisors from firm B, firm C, firm D, and add them to their thing. And one of the things they do is say, we've got this, and do you do social media? Yeah, we've got this whole thing. So it was an arms race to get this all set up. And we know the firms that are winning right now are winning the attention game anyways. We know where they work because they've got probably, I don't want to say lax, but they've got the most progressive social media marketing policy in place. And those firms are going to gobble up attention, and we'll see how that plays out over time. I'm not saying the other firms won't survive. It's just they're not out there.
And you mentioned that the algorithms, you got to play the game. I mean, it's part of it. Good or bad, you can hate the game if you want to, but if you're looking to engage and interact and gain clients in an efficient manner, you got to play the game in a certain capacity. So what are some of the, I guess, big, outside of the canned content, what are some additional landmines that you see advisors running to, or maybe changes to social media or evolutions as we kind of go forward?
Yeah. And you left off your last question of like, it was like, I can only work with so many clients. And that's a really cool thing for me and a really scary thing, because one, I can't scale my business and I can only work with so many clients. But yet also when a client leaves, it's very impactful. When you only work with a half dozen or a dozen clients, right? When they leave, it hurts the bottom line because they make up, a tenth or 15% of the whole thing. But I do it that way because I can't scale consumable content. Because each person, John, Corey, whoever's watching, your message is all different and unique, and your business is different and unique, and what you want to say is different and unique. And I can't create one piece of content for all of you to go out there that'll be consumed and then not call myself the same thing that I'm fighting against or competing with, which is what the firm does. And right. So I just want to put that out there. And that's why I enjoy what I do, because I get to know my clients really well, and we built really custom consumable stuff. So how, and to answer your question, I think the question was how do I work with clients to get their content more consumed, or what little landmines there are that they need to
changes, or kind of, you mentioned the algorithms, right? Because that's changing, right? I mean, it's not like
changes daily. I think it changed last night.
So I mean, I guess, so what are some of the big challenges you see with that? Or how do you keep up with that?
My big thing is this: like, I think you need to use yourself as a frame of reference more often than not. I think when you sit down to type, or you write, you make notes, or you start to create, you're an advisor who likes to use, the Apple Pen and Canva or Adobe or whatever. Like, would I consume this? If you just put it through that first filter, if the answer is no, you need to stop and create something you would at least consume. And I think that's the first thing that I coach any advisor on that is looking to create their own content, is, would I consume it? Does this message hit home with me? Would the people I want to work with watch, read, expand on this, click on this? If the answer is no, then you're kind of, this is a zero-sum event that we're talking about here. This piece of content is doing nothing but creating noise. The next one I talk to people about is, when are you sharing content? When are you out there? Like, if your target audience is 45, are you posting content that you hope they consume at 7:30 in the morning? Might not be the best time. They've got 3 kids. They're running off to school, fighting. The spouses are yelling at each other. Who's got the lunch? Like, it's a chaotic time. Maybe sharing that piece of content for a 45-year-old who's in the corporate world at 9:45 a.m. or 11 a.m. makes more sense on LinkedIn. Why, Corey? Well, that's typically what you get into work, you get your bags off or whatever, or you work from home, but you go through your email, you get through a couple of meetings. We jump on LinkedIn to take a break. We jump on social to take a break. And so if we meet the prospect during the moment in time during the break, it's probably going to be the chances of it landing are a lot greater. So there's just those little things that I pay attention to. I mean, we can get into the nuances, and I'm starting to jot down notes for something that I might be working on in the future of like how to put links into things and make that stuff work so that the algorithm doesn't fight against you. But those are just some of the little things that I think about early on.
I mean, so if I'm an advisor, I mean, is that, how do I, again, keep up or pay attention? Or is that just, I mean, like you said, running through that first filter, what would I consume? What would I do? And I mean, I guess, is that enough to get started? I mean, do you have to do more? Do you have to go to these big, workshops and events and, kind of learn, all the nuances of social media?
What do you want to do? I mean, if you're an advisor that wants to not only put out a lot of content, but you want to create content and you want to kind of take on that role of marketing, which many kind of have to, right? Your business isn't to scale to hire for help, then like you've got to do it. Like there's no magic thing that's going to teach you. You actually have to get the Apple Pencil and the iPad and start learning how to use the programs that create content that people want to consume. If we're talking literally digital content, like imagery and graphics. If not, maybe you're the advisor who you're just really wise and you have a lot to say. You might just need a little help or a little guidance on how to structure the posts that you're putting into the feed. Like, is it double spacing and then getting the rest of it below the fold? Like, how does that work? TLDR is like a new big one I'm running with. Too long, didn't read. Like, guys, you just wrote a book. I'm not reading that. I'm moving on, right? Like, we see a lot of that in the feeds in general, just in content in general. You just filmed a 42-minute meeting talking about one point. We should have summarized that in 8 minutes. Seminar, like, where do advisors learn that? Like, I mean, that's what I do. I'm sure there's others out there that do what I do and can teach advisors. It's tasting, trying, working with experts, consultants, or marketers that are good at it, that know how to do it, watching, and being humble. I think humble is a big one. Like, we all want to think that our stuff's the best or our message is the best, or even worse is the one that I hate, John, is like, tried that, didn't work. Nope, tried it, didn't work. All right, well, how did you try it? What were the nuances that went into it? Like, let's talk about that. Why didn't it work? Like, there's so much going on. All of it works. I promise you, all of it works. If you do it right, and if you have patience with it. Like, so, I don't have anywhere to send anyone to learn this stuff other than you need to find someone like me or whatever, or learn it yourself, or Google or YouTube to do it, to learn how to, and to try it, and to learn how to get your stuff consumed.
So, how do you provide advice to advisors that are trying to strike that balance of, it's a niche, it's what I would consume, it's kind of, I'm attracting people I like, finding the right clients, I feel comfortable, and then that humility side, I'm putting it out and it's not working. So, like, how do you coach advisors on, when to recognize, hey, it's time to maybe shift and turn a different direction, or I need to, maybe, change the process a little bit, because feel like I'm doing all the right things. I'm putting it out. I'm targeting the right people. I'm doing things that I would consume, but again, it's maybe not hitting right away. How do you coach advisors to, I guess, determine when it's time to maybe shift gears and look a different direction, or maybe just tweak it a little
question. I worked with an advisor a while back. Target market was nurses. Okay. Awesome. I love it. Spending the majority of his time attempting to do that through LinkedIn. That is just not a platform that is going to play all that well for nurses. First of all, the timing of the whole thing is, their schedule is on its head. It's not on your schedule, and it's just really not on LinkedIn's schedule, frankly. Like, them getting home at midnight, I feel like LinkedIn turns off like after dinner. So, I'll give you really granular advice that I would take if I was an advisor that was targeting nurses. I would make a bunch, like I'm talking a shitload of videos that are 1 to 3 minutes long, answering questions that nurses have about finances. And like, I don't know the ins and outs of their, and where they have I don't even know what their retirement plans are called, but like you would, if you're the advisor that targets nurses, and you would answer that question, like, how much can I contribute to this year, right? Answer that question as the title on YouTube. Make the thumbnail a picture of you, with, and brand yourself the person who answers the questions for the industry on nurses, right? Make your channel like, financial planning for the nursing industry, like, or I don't know what it is, but I would focus on that, and I would use YouTube as my gateway there, and then I would put a lot of that stuff out on Facebook, frankly, and then put an email newsletter together. But those would be the three things I do: email, newsletter, Facebook, and YouTube. And answering questions that they have and addressing things and pain points. Like, I know you're busy. Getting home at 3 a.m. is not the time to think about finances. I've created this video for you. Watch on your, like, I would start to create content that meets them where they are and speaks specifically to them, especially on a platform that is not feed related. Like, we have to understand that Facebook and LinkedIn are feeds. If you miss those moment in times, it's kind of gone. YouTube's that library. It's that search engine. It's going to live forever. And that's where I would put content out for a specific niche, like a nurse.
But, and you mentioned that, you've mentioned this before, you mentioned this when we were talking earlier, is record as much as possible, you put it out. I mean, so, I guess as you're going through answering these questions, a lot of times, there may be advisors who are, I guess, uncomfortable, right? I mean, they may be comfortable in a one-on-one setting. They may be comfortable in a big group, in a big 50, 60 people in a room answering questions and going through things. But how do I get past that maybe initial fear if I'm not as much of a, I guess, video friendly, or, putting myself in front of a camera? How do I overcome that fear of just getting up and doing it?
We just have to recognize where you're most comfortable creating content. If it's not video, that's totally fine. Like, there's plenty of times that, I mean, I don't have a face for video anyways. Plenty of times that I don't feel like jumping in front of the camera. Audio is a terrific one for a lot of people, of being able to get your thoughts out. Writing, I mean, look, blogs and email is not dead. It's just how you use it. I think that's the thing. Like, if you had a blog that was built really well, or you don't even need the tech side of it. Like, I don't want to spend anyone's money for them. Just like think it through, that answers the top 10 questions, and it's on your website, and it's, called resources. They go to it. And it's like the top 10 questions for, nurses relating to their finances or whatever. And you just address those on a drop down accordion, right? That's an awesome page for people to use as a resource. Or you could create some of that stuff as audio. If it's a little long winded and you don't want to type out 3,000 words every time, just do it as audio. And here's the one nugget that, like, advisors need to pay attention to with content. It's really hard to sit on your couch at night and be like, I've got to create something tomorrow, and then come up with an idea that is actually going to be consumable. The best time to do it, like we talked about, John, ahead of time, is, first of all, record as much as you are comfortably recording, whether or not you want to use the video or not, or the audio. Use your iPhone to record just the audio of you speaking or having a conversation. You're going to drop a gem in there, and you might not have to use that specific clip, but that gem at least is captured, and then you can rewrite it and reuse it and repurpose it. But on the flip side, like, when you and I get off this meeting, and let's just say I'm an advisor and you're a nurse, camera goes off, I could literally grab my phone, put the audio app on, and be like, hey, what's up, guys? It's Corey. I just had an amazing conversation with the nurse. This nurse, John, like, it has a family of 3, just is struggling with hours, doesn't have the time, right? And I could go on a tangent about that because it's fresh and I'm thinking it through. And now I've got myself a perfect 3-minute audio clip that I could turn into anything.
That's good stuff. So beyond social media, right, and email, blogs, all those things, I like that care package you mentioned earlier, where you put, some information out. I mean, what are your thoughts and opinions to maybe some people that are starting to get to the point of, it is all an algorithm. It's all these things where I'm getting frustrated. Maybe I need to, choose a different means of communicating with clients. So I guess, what is your thought of striking that balance and maybe using some of those other resources, those other ways to get in front of clients or prospective clients?
I freaking love it. I mean, just don't waste your money on it. I mean, if you're going to create a piece of mail, it's 60 cents to mail it, just as a baseline. And so you got to understand the cost. We have to understand who it's going to. Do we have a real list of prospects that are going to receive this in the mail? Let's make an assumption that you do. I don't think mailing them a postcard of saying, come work with me is going to hit home. That's probably going to hit the recycling bin before the front door. I mean, we have to, again, use the frame of mind of, would I consume this? Like, I'm walking back from the mailbox. I've flipped this postcard over front and back. There's not a whole lot of value here. Recycling bin. Okay. Now, what might get through is, an 8x11 envelope that inside has a nice little 4-page brochure that answers the top 10 questions asked by, pre-retirees or high earning corporate professionals, whatever your niche market is. If you're mailing, I get something in the mailbox today, John, that says, 35 to 50-year-olds, the number 10 things they need to think about as they head into retirement, or the most common questions they have as they plan for their future. And it's a brochure. It'll probably get opened. So you've got my attention, and now what's the content inside? How consumable is the content? Is it good? Like, this is a game of meritocracy. We're fighting for attention here. This is not a game of checking the box. Like, there is more noise out there today than there's ever been, and it's only going to get worse, and our attention spans are only shrinking. Like, when was the last commercial you actually literally can even remember watching? Like, they're on and you're glazed over, or you're in your phone, like you're not even watching them. Like, so it all works. I promise you. Like, we just have to think it through. And this is where that check the box thing happens. And then advisors spend $3,500 on this mail campaign that didn't net them anything. And then it's like, marketing doesn't work. So you got to, it's just, this is, guys, if you're watching this, if you're listening, whenever you're consuming this, it works. It's just a game of consumability and meritocracy. Like, is your stuff worth them consuming? Is it good enough?
And, how do you help coach advisors? You mentioned, be thoughtful about budget, you're spending money, but you got to be thoughtful about your time budget, right? And so there are all these different ways to get in front, whether it be video, you mentioned blog, whether it be audio, whether it be doing the mailing. So how do you help, advisors not be a squirrel running in all different directions, trying all these different things, but hone in and focus on, maybe what's going to be most valuable? Is it really just, I guess, what does that process look like if I were to work with you, Corey?
It's really similar to how you would work with a tennis professional, a golf professional, or a fitness instructor. Like, if you show up and you want to have the conversation, and we're going to, like, John, you got to be honest with me. Like, how dedicated are you to this? Like, what kind of patience do you have? Like, what's your timeline? I want to be able to run into all my clients at the grocery store. Now, none of my clients are local, but my point, I don't want to hide from anybody. So anything I'm doing, I stand behind. Like, and I'll pivot. I'll be like, we tried this last week. I'm based on what they've done to that platform, or the way the new spam email works. Like, we're not doing that anymore. Like, I'm not going to keep churning and burning. That my thing is, like, I want to be tight with who I work with. So we're going to have honest conversations. This is not a commercial for me either. I'm just giving it to you straight. Like, we're going to talk about your budget, and we're going to say, I think you'd be wasting money here. I mean, your best bet right now is to be consistent doing this, this, and this. And this is all dependent on what their target market is, where they work, what they're allowed to do, and kind of what kind of person are they? What are they comfortable doing, creating, and how good are they at it? Like, is their stuff crap? Like, I'm not going to tell someone to continue to create video if your stuff's garbage and actually makes you look like a clown. Like, and I'm being realistic. Like, if it's going to turn clients off from how serious you take the business, like, I'm going to tell you that. Like, I think that's a bad, like, that might be a cool hobby you enjoy, but we shouldn't be trying to grow our business through that. I don't know that I really answered your question. I think it all comes down to the advisor. Like, if you only have 500 a month, I would be really careful on how you spend that. And I would tell you this honestly, I think I would find a really trustworthy coach or consultant for that price, because I think the value you'd extract for them for the 500 would put you in the right direction versus the product or the attempt at spending that money on some sort of, list or tactic or program. That's what I would tell anyone who does not have a high budget for this. I would say find a really good marketing consultant or coach, because that'll act as like having a marketing department for you. And that's where I would say most advisors miss early on. They take that $500 or $1,000 budget and they spend it on something, a list or a program, or like, some magic pill, silver bullet thing that doesn't pan out, and it sours them on the whole thing. And, that a lot of that stuff is in the refinement game. Like people talk about SEO and advertising. Like a lot of that stuff works after you've established your brand. You can't jump all the steps it takes to get there.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta put in the time. It's not going to happen. I think you were talking about this the other day, or I saw something where it's just, you can't, it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, it's going to be a process, but you got to stay true to yourself and follow that. And then, like you said, be ready. Humility. I like how you talk about that. Hey, we made a mistake. I'm going to need to pivot. I'm going to need to do things a little bit differently. It sounds a lot to me like your process is similar. Your onboarding process is similar to a financial advisor. We talk about this a lot in terms of creating a niche. What's your niche? And a lot of advisors will answer, no assholes. I don't want to work with an asshole. I don't want to work with somebody who's not going to take my advice, or, find what I'm going to be offering to be valuable, because it's going to ultimately hurt me in the long run.
It's not worth the money.
It's not going to be helpful. I mean, you want to find, I guess, the people that like and appreciate you, that, what you do. It all comes back to that reciprocity mindset. With, I guess, how often, you mentioned $500 a month, or, whatever it is, like, it does feel like, even not necessarily even at the corporate, at the big institution level, but even at the advisor level, in some cases, it is just kind of a check the box mentality. I mean, is that something where, in your mind, maybe they'll come around, almost like an advisor looking at a client? If somebody has that check the box mindset, when they don't, then, maybe that's when they call and turn you. It's not something that you're probably going to be able to get them to, I guess, see things a different way, right out of the gate. Would you agree with that?
Are you like, let's make sure I'm understanding. You're saying if there are advisors out there that have kind of exhibited the check the box behavior, how do you break them out of that?
Or you find that in your initial interview, right? Where somebody's like, hey, I know I need to do this. They're not really looking to put in the time, the energy to create that, they're looking for that canned content option, and that's it. Like, they're not, do you basically, I mean, is it something where you think you can help somebody like that, or is it just they're going to have to figure it out for themselves? I mean, they're going to have to find out down the road when it's the right time.
I think that's probably the latter is probably where I find my clients, is down the road after they've learned and tested and tasted. I don't think anyone who, I have no interest, and I've run into this, right, of getting into some sort of argument early on in the process with an advisor who wants to argue with me about lead lists and canned content. Like, if that's what you believe in and that's what works for you, then that's awesome. And I literally root for you to continue to grow your business through it. I don't want to fight with you about it. That's just not my thing. So, that is that. I don't, it's really hard to convince. I actually have a belief, like, I have no interest in convincing the unconvincible. Like, it's just a waste of time. Like, I want to work with like-minded people that see the world the way I see the world, and see the opportunities that I see. And that's where we create really cool relationships and success. And that's the same way advisors are. Like, you said it 5 minutes ago. What advisor wants to answer the phone every single time Apple drops 2%? Like, John, you told me, that's not going to work forever. Like, that relationship just isn't meant to be.
Well, and yeah, it comes down to, I guess, having humility to be truthful about who you are, what you're looking to do, but then also having that long-term mindset of, yeah, I mean, I want to take that client on, or I want to, get that win right now, but long-term, it's going to end up being counterproductive to my brand
And
and
we
where
know
I'm
it in
looking
our
to go.
gut too, right?
Yeah.
We know when that's happening.
Yep. Well, Corey, I can't thank you enough for stepping up to participate in this first desk side chat as we relaunch this process. Again, the concept, the idea, good people finish first, is everyone's invited, and we truly want everyone to be part of this community. So this goes to the baker. Maybe we'll be working with bakers at some point, but I recognize my expertise, my experience, my relationships. The focus is on financial advisors and the businesses that support them. So under that broad good people finish first canopy, PurePod exclusive focus is on financial advisors, and again, the businesses that support them. I can't even tell you how excited I am to have you being a part of this, Corey, because I think you offer such great insight, such value to advisors. And again, I can't wait to see where we go, and I want to continue working with you and having you continue to share your great content with us going forward. So thank you so much for participating.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, that means the world to me. Again, that's just a gracious outro now. I've got a gracious intro and outro from you. So I appreciate it.
And people who know me know I'm not, I don't bullshit a lot. So, I mean, it's just, anyway, I just the way I am. So
I'm excited about what you're building. I'm excited about what you're doing. I'm here for it, and I'm here to support it. And I just want to, I'll end with this if I've got another minute. Like,
yeah.
you did ask the question of like, why are maybe advisors buying some of the stuff that just is like the check the box stuff? And I don't mean to completely rewind the conversation, but you made me think of it during that gracious outro you offered me. I just think so many people in this industry jump in for the money. And I obviously out of college, I didn't get into marketing finance for money. It wasn't a money thing. I was into marketing, and there was a job in finance. So I kind of came up through it. But I think so many, especially even marketers, they jump into this business for money, and you see them come and try to sell their services and sell their thing and sell their magic, whatever. And I think one of the cool things is that I don't have that for sale. I've just got something that's not scalable, which is me and my time. And I have a very limited amount of people I can work with. And where I'm going with this is that I think a lot of advisors don't know that maybe there are people or me out there, like other me's. There's others. I'm not naive to think that there aren't others doing things like me or even better than me, whatever. But I think a lot of advisors just aren't aware that there are options like that. And that's why they end up buying a lot of this crap that they buy that ends up unfortunately being a waste of time and a waste of money. So I don't really blame all the advisors on it. I just don't think they know where to go. I don't think that their firms point them in the right directions. I don't think that these custom bespoke kind of human marketers like myself and are widely promoted or out there. And I think that's a lot of it. And I'm not trying to boil the ocean and change the world with what I'm doing. I'm just trying to do that for the select few that I'm grateful enough to work with. But I would just say to advisors, if you believe in marketing and you do have a budget and you want to move the needle, look a little deeper into your network and talk to other advisors and try to find what it is that could actually help you. And I think working with a human, a one-on-one relationship is something that might really benefit a lot of you, or at least be worth trying for 6 months to see how that works for you, because I think that'll change your perspective on the whole thing. So that was 2 minutes. I apologize for taking that up to explain that, but I feel like that just needed to be said.
Oh, I appreciate it. Again, we're we're going to have more of these conversations going forward. Like I said, I'm excited to have you being a part of this. There's 5 rabbit holes I want to start diving into as you're going through that. But I do want to at least just say this. You mentioned marketing, right? If you have a budget and you're looking to do marketing, I think it's also something that a lot of advisors need to recognize the scale of just simply maintaining contact and touch with current clients. Yep. Facebook, if I do a Wednesday coffee club or whatever, if it's just me talking to a couple clients and I'm just putting it out there, a couple ideas that could turn into marketing and be purposeful in that manner, but it also could simply solve being scaled out in terms of communicating with existing clients as well.
It's such an opportunity. Talking to your current client base is a massive opportunity because it takes away this idea that you have to sell to them. So right off the table, you're just providing value to them. And that is consumable. That is digestible. And secondarily, like, we just take for granted those moments in time when that client is going to talk to their sister-in-law or their nephew or their brother-in-law or their friend Tim at the kids' basketball game, or when that question is going to come up of like, yeah, I know we need an advisor. I don't know, do you guys work with anybody? Like, oh man, my advisor's awesome. Like, right? That, like, and people say, oh, my advisor's awesome a lot more often if you're providing value to them consistently than like if you're just someone you've onboarded them 4 years ago and they hear from you once a year. It's a lot easier for people to recommend you when they get that valuable newsletter every 2 weeks, or when they're seeing you show up in their feed providing value to others all the time.
Yep. Killing 2 birds. So members of the community, look forward to engaging and talking this week and beyond. Again, the theme for February is working on the business. Corey, again, look forward to continuing the conversation and dialogue. And if you're interested in learning more about the cause and about what we're doing, please visit the website. GoodAdvisorsFinishFirst.com, GoodPeopleFinishFirst.com. They both go to the same website. For right now, through March 31st, it's we're doing goodwill donation only. So whatever you feel comfortable contributing as we're looking to get this thing going, please feel free to jump in, and look forward to having some great conversations going forward. Thank you so much, Corey. Appreciate it.
You got it, man. Thank you. Thank you, guys.